Okay, so I had a good session yesterday. I ran good. Boy, those are the sessions you like, right? When you run good and everything is going real well. I did want to go over a couple spots real quick that I thought were of interest. And one was something I do, and a lot of people do, which is betting big draws in PLO. A lot of times, if you have like a monster draw, like you pick up a straight draw and a flush draw, you're tempted to want to bet it, and it depends on how good of players you're playing against. And I'll give an example. The flop was King Jack 7 with 2 hearts and 1 club. I have like King 6, 5 3. Not a great hand, but it was like double suited, so I'm going to limp in for that for sure. I'm going to see a flop. And on the flop, all I had was top pair and a backdoor flush draw. And as typical, you're going to see the flop multi-ways. Even if someone raised, you're going to see it flop multi-way. I'm last to act. Probably one of the reasons I had stuck around with that hand, because it can get you in trouble with the king high flush. Ace high flush draw, ace high flush, like suited to the ace is a lot better, because those suited to the kings can get you in trouble in multi-way pots. So, anyway, it gets checked around, it gets checked through. The turn is a 5, and I had king 6-4, 2 clubs. So now, and it was the club. So now I pick up a straight draw, an open-ended straight draw with my king high flush draw and top pair. So it gets checked to me again, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a perfect spot. I got a ton of equity. I bet, get 2 callers. The river, the board paired, gets checked to me again, and I felt like this was a spot I should bluff at, because I could have turned a set. Now I'm full. I could have turned 2 pair. I really wouldn't fill up with that, but I thought it was a good spot to bluff. So I bet, and the guy snapped me off with he turned set on the turn. He snapped me off with bottom full house. And he was concerned that maybe I had a higher full house. Now, my point is, against players that are not very good and don't hand read, this works and is profitable to bet on the turn here. However, if you're playing against good players that can actually hand read, I question whether or not this is a good spot for me to even bluff the turn with. Maybe because I have top pair. Maybe I have the best hand already and it got checked through, so I should bet it. But if you go back and think about the hand and do some hand reading on that draw heavy of a board, would I really check 2 pair or a set last to act? No, nobody is. So I'm telling the story here that I'm full on the river, but the only full house I can have is the boat on the by hitting the set on the turn, which is possible. So maybe it is a good bet, but if you get called in this spot, you have to worry that maybe someone has 2 pair or the actual set you're trying to represent, and that river bricks. It's questionable whether or not, because you can't expect people to fold a boat in PLO. People aren't just going to fold a boat. So it's questionable whether or not. It probably is still a bluff, because a lot of people just miss their draws, and you want to get out like the 2 pairs. 2 pairs is going to be hard. It's going to be hard to call. Of course, the 4th pair on the river, but let's say someone had king 6, or they turn 2 pair, and I just have kings. They're going to have a hard time calling when the deuce hits the river and the board pairs. But if they're any kind of a hand reader, they probably should call, because they realize that, hey, his story doesn't make a whole lot of sense because he checked the flop. So you always got to go back to hand reading and think about, okay, does this make sense or not? Probably is a good idea a lot of times to bet a big draw on the turn, but on the other hand, just be careful about it, because your story doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Your range is very capped, should we say, where you only really have a turn set or nothing. Another hand example here I thought was pretty interesting is I had another hand real similar to this, where again I had top pair and turned a flush draw, and real similar to this hand, and I bet and got like 3 callers, and I was surprised because okay, and then the river was a blank, but it was an ace, which I didn't like because I had the king. It was an ace. So if someone had the ace high flush draw, I only had, again, the king high flush draw. If somebody had an ace high flush draw, they just hit top pair. Don't know if you want to really be trying to bluff people off a top pair. Multi-way. So I checked around. I guess checked the guy last to act. And I know this guy bluffs sometimes. And he went all in. And it was for like $270 into a $400 pot. Came back around to me. And you just look at him, and he looked nervous as hell. And not only did he look nervous as hell, but what is he really representing? Like, on that type of board, it was the same type of board where all the flush draws missed, all the straight draws missed. There was a shit ton of draws. So what could he really have besides ace-king? He could have top 2. Would he bet that for value? Possibly. But he was last to act. He just looked real nervous. And the thing is, you got to realize, if there's a lot more draws that missed than actual hands he could have hit on the river, you got to look him up. And I just knew he was bluffing. I just as nervous as he looked, I just knew he was bluffing. I just knew it. But I had a guy behind me, which I thought he could possibly have just an ace, and I don't think he's folding just an ace. The guy that plays a lot. And, with the guy behind me. But the thing is I was thinking about this during the hand, too. The thing is if I call, that looks strong, right? So it's going to be hard for him to call. Another Poker 101 tip is, if you're not sure about calling or not, don't give away. It's so easy, and I've done this so many times in the past, give away the strength of your hand. Where I'm like, oh God, should I call? What do you have? Blah, blah, blah. By doing all that, I'm letting the guy behind know that I don't have that strong of a hand. So he's more incentivized to call with just an ace. I don't want that. If I want it to be a confident call where the guy behind me turns around and says, well, shit, he must have 2 pair plus, I got to fold. So you got to just make it a confident call and not give away the strength of your hand. I just messed up. I folded, and he showed a stone cold bluff. And I'm like, damn it, I knew it. I just freaking knew it. The way he acted, the way he looked so nervous, and the simple fact that there was a ton of draws in this. There are a lot of situations, especially in PLO, where you can check call the river because your hand is not strong enough to be called really by worse, but you can snap off bluffers. If you check to them, you can call them with second pair if you like all these draws missed, and they're more weighted towards missed draws than they are value. That's a good spot to like check call, and because you're going to do a lot better check calling, snapping off bluffs in that spot than you are betting when really only better is calling. I could have bet a king there, but then he's just folding his garbage 10 high. But he's got an ace or ace king, he's calling. Well, only better calling is not a good bet. So the proper strategy there would be to check, evaluate, and which is what I did, and call if you think he's bluffing. I should have called, and I didn't. And that was a big pot I could have, should have won. But I didn't. And hopefully in the future I won't make that mistake again. Those are a couple things. I had one more thing I was going to mention. It's just keep in my mind here. Probably wasn't that important. So, anyway, guys, hopefully those couple pointers helped you out. I had a good session last week, or yesterday. It was definitely needed because my bankroll's dwindled down to 0. It was my last, $210 in my pocket, and thankfully ran it up pretty good. So, I feel like I can run it up more. So right now I got to go to the dentist's office to get my teeth fixed, and that's going to cost money. So anyway, guys, hopefully this was helpful to you. If you like it, subscribe, click, And I got a bunch of PLO hands I want to analyze that I did a live stream on, and eventually I'm going to try getting around to that. So make sure you subscribe and subscribe. This guy's turning a legal left. There's no U-turn here. All right, man. Take care, y'all.